We did better than we did last week, William. At least we're here about 5 seconds before.
And at least we're not mouthing.
I know. Oh, but we have an interesting show, and it's got a really loose title, but it has to do with the other half of the planet. It's about men share truth.
Yes.
Men sharing their truth. Men speaking up, but men sharing their truth.
And you know, I've been thinking about this a lot because I've been behind the women's movement for years.
Mm-hmm.
But then I realized the women's movement has forced a lot of men to not adapt where they want to.
Mm-hmm.
And so they're trying to
Interesting.
prove their masculinity,
Okay.
which makes it even more difficult for you women.
So
Not all of you. Not,
Yeah. No, but that idea of wanting to keep the normal. You know, I'm supposed to be the breadwinner. I'm supposed to be out
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I'm supposed to wear the pants.
And a friend of mine just today, she was saying, "What does the word normal really mean?"
I know. I could go there with your friend on that. Like normal, I mean N. So there in normal, there's like a N for no.
Mm-hmm.
And then, like, what's the standard for normal? What are we measuring it against? Are we going up or down, or to the side or the left? Normal. I mean, like, it's an accepted word in our vocabulary, but what the hell does it mean? Normal.
And the norm for men has been, you have to be the hunter, the gatherer. You have to protect your woman. You have to protect your children. And so we perpetuate that. Then along came World War I.
Yes.
And women had to stand up, had to. And that's when, of course, I wasn't quite born yet. Pretty close.
Myself either, but we may have been in a lifetime there, though.
I wouldn't be surprised. And then World War II came along, and again, women had to be the hunter, the gatherer. So women have really adapted. Men, you want to say so much, but you're indoctrinated to believe that you have to be the breadwinner.
And being the breadwinner now can be a lot of things, from being able to stay
Yes.
home and bake the bread, literally, because
Perfect.
some men are better cookers. Cookers?
Excuse me.
You're good. Than women, you know?
Oh, yeah.
It's not like a gender thing. It's a preference thing.
And so men, if you really want to be a cook, a baker, if you want to be an artist, it's time to say, I'm not giving up my masculinity, but I am going to be a chef. Or I am going to do this. I'm going to be a diver. Whatever.
Let's stay with the baking thing, because I like that, because there is this little bit of judging about, if the woman is a cook, then she's a cook or a baker. But if it's a guy, he's a chef. Like, what's up with that one? You know what I'm saying?
I do.
You know, it's like the woman can be a chef and a baker, and the men can be a chef and a baker, or you just like to hang out in the kitchen and make some food to eat. You know? So all this stuff about roles is what we're talking about.
Right.
Energetically.
And so the normal that we're going toward
Yes.
is equality.
I like that.
And men, stand up for yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't stand up by controlling people, manipulating people, but express who you really are.
And even my male friends that happen to be gay, and ones that tend to dress in drag, you are not excluded from the standing up for the energetic male and the energetic female inside of you. How you express externally is how you express externally.
Right, because it's not a sexual thing.
It's not a sexual thing. You wrote a really great article, and I believe it's on the blog, about sexuality versus sensuality. I
Yes.
appreciated that a lot, because there's so much taboo about, you know, mixing the sexuality and the sensuality, and it's like, no. That's abnormal to
And
do
that
that.
article was published in a number of magazines in Japan.
I loved it. I liked reading, and it wasn't like a super long one or super heady. It was just really clear. But you do have a really great way of simplifying your 81 years, and in your 30-something books that you've written, you just kind of like get the nugget. It's like you put the energy into the words. I've never said that to you before, but you put the
No.
energy into the words. So when I read things, the energy pops out at me. When I read things.
You just said something vital.
Okay.
I believe that why my writing has been somewhat successful is because people from different educational backgrounds read the same thing, but they get what they can comprehend or what they can relate to, even if they don't agree with it. It's an energy thing.
It's an energy thing, and everything. I mean, everything is energy. It
Oh,
sounds
everything.
like you're being redundant, repeating that. But we had a nice gathering, at the end of May, and it just popped across my head the other day that since Father's Day is coming up, and George's birthday is today.
Yes,
George is 73 today. Isn't that amazing?
and he doesn't look it, he doesn't act it, nothing.
Yeah. And I've always said to other people, I've said that to you, George has got a very balanced male and female inner dynamic.
Yes, he does.
And that's just how he rolls. This is how, when I met him, he was that way. And so he's had a journey to get there. You could talk to him
Sure.
sometime about that. But now that he's at that base, at our gathering, George actually spoke in a really dynamic way. And I wanted
Oh,
to
and it was wonderful.
wasn't it? I wanted to share that with our audience. So next time, our next event is June 24th, Thursday, last Thursday of the month,
Yes.
so June 24th, at the Cocina Mexicana restaurant, 6 to 8. We're going to do the same thing, only different. So come make friends, laugh, and feel a little bit lighter and brighter.
And men, don't just think it's for the women to come. Men can come because it's time that all of us express what we feel. And people they might criticize us. But that's not paying the bills. That's not taking care of anything. So if they criticize you, just say thank you and go your way.
But we're setting up a baseline intention for people really to come
Yes.
and gather and communicate. And I think we're just, we're setting that up. So
And so I'm saying, men come, don't just let your wife come, or your girlfriend, or your boyfriend. Come together.
come together. So I thought it would be fun, a nice treat for us to watch a clip that Max prepared for us for a snippet of that part of the show, and George is going to be speaking. I think I'm speaking, you're speaking too, but we want to take,
Sure,
a whole
go.
show. We could, but we're going to take a little bit. So let's see what our video producer put together for us. Max, you want to show that piece?
I'm going to say something about all this because I'm a very firm believer in that people love to give their power away. Everybody has an agenda. I don't care whether it's the right, the left, the middle, the south, the north. We all love to drink some flavored Kool-Aid that feeds ourselves. There's many truths out there. There's many lies out there. There's many half-truths. And we all got to figure out what is really important to ourselves, which direction we want to go, where we would like to see the world, the universe go, and not think that any one person, any one group, anything out there is the only be-all answer to everything in the world.
Hear to that one.
Whether
It's an
it's
inside
God,
job nowadays.
a president, a rock star, or somebody living under a rock. We always like to give our power away because we don't think we're worthy of having our own power.
Yeah,
And knowing which direction we really need to go.
True.
So I think it's really important for people to broaden their field and look to many directions. If you really don't understand the right, You got to read about them. You got to study them. You don't really understand the left.
And interact with them.
Study them and talk to them.
Yep.
Interact with them. And the problem I see, there's so many polarizations going on in our world that people shut off so much good things in their life because this is the only way it can be. And if I'm a Christian, that's all it can be. If I'm a Buddhist, that's all it can be.
Mm-hmm.
And just throwing some things out, not saying that's, and it's really, really important. I think people realize that their power is the greatest thing that they have within themselves. And understanding what you can do with your power, your energy, and be able to work within different modalities and know that nothing is one single answer or truth to anything in this world.
Oh, absolutely true.
So I think it's really important for us as individuals to not think that everything is coming from just certain sources, because there's lots of, the universe has so many different sources and energies within it. Just like you look at the planets, all the different planets have so many different things, and none of them can work without the other ones working together with them. And it's really important for all of us to figure out how we're going to make this world a better place and still be able to celebrate the differences and understand that the way this life, this world, this universe is going to move forward is to stop thinking that there's only one way or one person or one thing that's going to take us in or out of something.
I think the strongest word, no matter how you want to look at it, still comes out to love.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Anything to knock that out of the way.
Love, absolutely.
Love is a very, very important thing. That's true.
Is so, if you just embrace everyone with love, you win.
Yeah.
You don't need a
And that
religion
love
or anything
starts
like
right
that.
here, though.
That's right.
It starts right here.
And self-love is the biggest thing.
Yes.
You know, how the hell you gonna love anybody else if you don't love yourself? My favorite person says that.
Yeah.
And the important thing is, if you want love in your life, it'll not happen unless you love yourself.
True story.
Yep.
And that's where a lot of people are at right now. They're in conflict.
Exactly.
There's all this fear out there. There's nothing really to hold on to that's anchoring. You know, not at all.
It's so important that we remember if you say Buddha brought me an answer better than anyone else's, it's just the same answer that you get from Christianity, that you get from atheism. It's all one big interaction. I like the idea of we're all part of a big stew and we stir it up. Yes. George, that was wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
That was very good.
Clear.
Applaud.
I've never heard you speak before, George,
Well,
but I
you know,
enjoyed it.
Renata and William know this, and my close friends know that I'm a very firm believer in being very self-aware of yourself and being aware of your energy, being aware of how you treat people, and also being aware of the fact that to give love, you've got to, that's a give and take thing. To know that not everybody is right and not everybody is wrong. And it's really, really important for us as individuals to develop our own personal strength, our own personal power.
Oh,
and
yes,
stop
yes.
giving it away to some other thing or some other place or some other person because you think that's going to be the answer. It's a good way of learning something, but we all have to figure out what is going to be best or right for us. And so many people doubt themselves all the time. So they, to me, in that way is how they give away their power. It's because they're totally in doubt of so many things that they decide and do on a daily basis.
Because they compare themselves to this one, that one, the other. It's not a comparison. It's like Renata has said, find out what you are, what your talents are, what your abilities are, and then use them. in your own way.
But don't find them just because you think you have no value. Honor that you have value just by your presence. That's why this
Perfect.
whole virtual you're not worth anything debt slavery thing happened in the first place.
Delightful.
So, wasn't that good? Make the world a better place and celebrate the differences as well. There were several key takeaways in that little 10, 15
Oh,
minute.
yes.
Thank you, Max. That was a nice clip. Thank you very much.
And it's a good reminder that, men, you have things to say, you have things to present, and it doesn't take away from the fact that you, all of us, are growing and changing.
Yes.
We're all becoming the same thing.
Multidimensional beings.
Yes.
Awake, aware humans. Consciously awake and aware humans. And that trajectory will change the planet immensely.
Oh, yes.
I mean, if you, are participating now, and as more people make the decision to honor their truth system, whatever your truth system is, yeah.
And knowing that your truth might well adapt and change tomorrow.
Or in the next minute.
Okay. Yes.
We were talking a little bit about that idea of normal, and so normal truth, let's put those together and let's play with that a little bit. What's a normal truth? You know what I mean? You start stringing words together, you think you're saying something, but then normal truth.
Because our normal here in America is not the normal in Mexico. It's not the normal in England.
But maybe energetically underlying some of the old normal ways, a lot of people are reaching for a new truth.
Yes.
To express
Yes.
their new normal. I mean, words are so far removed from real communication.
Which brings me back to the ways of the Navajo, the Lakota Sioux, the people from Africa. I don't even know how to say it.
It's like a nod of the head. It's a look in the eye.
It's nonverbal. Thank you.
And body language, and then we can make the assumption from one level that what you see is what you get, but then from another level, when you're feeling all the sensations that are happening and all the senses, then there's a lot of stuff going on that we're all keyed into or tuned into it. You just maybe pay attention to one thing over another because your lens is skewed in that direction more. Doesn't mean the other stuff is not there.
But you know what you're saying? I had a very difficult learning experience in Cambodia.
Did you?
If
I know you love it
put your
there.
feet in a direction of another person,
Uh-huh.
it's a confrontation.
Interesting.
Who knew?
And you were just trying to be comfortable sitting.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness, it's interesting. I heard an analogy about, and this is on subject because anything about the human psyche is on subject for this show, and spirit and soul. A woman was like wanting to get rid of some stuff in the past, and she was working with someone, and they were wanting her just to kind of key on that one little situation and to feel the sensation. And then she's like, well, I can't feel. I mean, I'm thinking. And then the person gave this great analogy. I want to share it. So they said, okay, well, I'm walking along, and then I shift, and I'm walking with someone else. I didn't stop walking. I'm just walking with somebody else. So like his point is, so what that you're thinking, because you don't recognize that it's still sensation and feeling, you're just thinking. The feeling stuff is still there. You're just not, adept to being that way with it.
And
But
paying attention.
that's still there. Your thinking and feeling are together. What you say in a lot of the work that you do in terms of, sensing and feeling, pay attention to all of it. It comes
All
to
of
the
it.
stomach, the on the skin, hairs raised on your arm. Taste. So pull that all together. That was a little bit off subject, but not really. It's part of the truth system for me now.
Well, that brought something up. I do a lot of workshops in Asia, and when we have men, we don't have as many men as women, and I say, well, we're going to practice our five senses. And when you go to see the trees, don't just touch them with your hands, don't just look at them, taste them, lick them. Women don't have a problem with that, men do.
Because like, well, what does that mean if I do that?
And so
Maybe that's it.
many of the men are learning just by licking a tree doesn't take away their masculinity.
No. Now, on the opposite side of that, a lot of women have balls. You know, they don't have there's not a balance of the male and female, and so what they present more is that I can do it myself. I don't need your help, kind of thing.
Okay, now a question. Why is it if women are strong, it's because they have balls? I think that is a prejudice.
Oh, sure, absolutely.
So what can we call a strong woman without saying, she's got balls?
Well, I was okay. So let me clarify a little bit, because what I meant, yeah, good for you. What I meant about that is balls. It's like, because men can be really rigid and think that their viewpoint is just to, I'm going to take care of you and protect you, and that women coming from underneath someone like that can develop this sort of veneer. Well, I don't need your help. You're good. I can take care of myself. That's what I mean by balls. I'm like equating the feminine energy and the masculine energy, kind of coming from that same sort of protective stance and not allowing things in. That's what I mean by that statement.
Okay, but what I'm saying is, why do we call it balls?
Because I just did.
Well, I know that, but what I'm saying is, balls are considered masculine. And so that I believe there should be a term that women use that is not saying, I'm duplicating men. I'm taking a male role.
My point was, women did take a male role. That's my
yes,
point.
yes.
That was my whole point. Women went from the suffrage movement to being independent to, like, back in the days of dressing, Robert Ponte and that, women did, they emulated men. They had the little ties on and stuff. I'm saying that was a point in our history where women were taught to have balls instead of just being a balanced woman that could speak up for herself.
And so now
that was in the past.
They still, okay, I've said what I got to say. Nothing more.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be just two viewpoints about a topic of how we don't tend to honor both sides of us, and that's the whole point. Is now we're learning to balance both the male and the female.
And if words have energy, then I believe it's time to use words that don't emulate masculinity or femininity. If a man wears a dress, people say he's being feminine, and it doesn't mean that. Kilts are like a dress.
Kilts are like, and actually, when they wear kilts, they have no undergarments on. They don't have hose or underwear, or from what I understand, I've never been privy to see what someone has under a kilt.
Oh, I have.
I've heard that. So, yeah, it is just that we all have to learn to choose a new truth system
Perfect statement. A new truth system
that we work by.
Language has evolved. English, French, every language has evolved. How people spoke English 200 years ago doesn't work anymore. And so our language is evolving, and I'm encouraging, find words that don't limit yourself or anyone else.
Or they don't isolate.
Oh, the perfect word.
Yeah. And that's part of something that you and I are doing, is making up some new words. Sometimes we're just talking, and then a new, like a compilation comes together, and then it comes out, and I'm like, well, you know what I meant. Yeah, I know what you meant. So write some of those down when those happen, because they're kind of interesting. You can use them, and
Absolutely.
then you can stimulate discussion with people when they're like, well, what did you just? I think I know but what do you mean by that? And then you're like, da 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 da. Oh yeah, I get you. Yeah.
Question, listen, and state.
Oh, I like that. QLS. Question, listen, and state.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Thank you.
I'm just writing that down because I like that. I like little acronyms, you know that.
I didn't know that.
QLS, I like that. So we all have an agenda, meaning we all came on this planet,
Yes.
and then we all acclimated, we all moved into the existing system.
Mm-hmm.
And we went along with things for a while, and sometimes a lot of those things worked.
And now
know.
they don't work.
Yeah.
So we're all adaptable. If our soul could come into Earth like ours, that's proving we're adaptable.
True thought.
Oh yes.
True, because this is not an easy density to be in.
Tell me about it.
They say Earth is like learning school.
Mm-hmm.
And that kind of makes sense. But then what do you do with your learning? Do you just leave after you've learned?
Actually, I believe that's true.
Okay. Like you're saying, so when it's time to go, then that death is like you're okay.
Because the human brain dies. Did you know that?
And you shared that with me before.
Yeah. The brain doesn't go on.
That's a good thing in some
And
instances.
so a lot that you accomplish in this life, when your body dies, sometimes the brain dies before your body does. And at that point, you're motivated by your soul inspiration. And everything that we experience in life isn't created just from the brain. It's also created from our soul saying, this is still out of balance, so you have to have these experiences. You have to have these events. Now what you do with them is your problem.
So when you go to broaden your viewpoints, your horizons, don't just stop with that one new lens that you discovered.
Oh, good.
I mean, that was something that George spoke about. Integrate it, bring it in
Yep.
too. His example was, if you are not a rightist, go study the rightist. Politically, he was saying. I'm not particularly political. I would always say that I'm not political. Oh my gosh, that's a lie. I really
I was
am.
going to say, wait a minute, you're not political?
Maybe I don't pay attention to the, Democrat, Republican kind of
Exactly,
thing.
exactly.
I don't do that one as much. But, politics is politic, right? It's about viewpoints, And I have definite bias on certain things. And sometimes it's just better to own that instead of trying to waffle all the time, I mean, that's kind of where I come from these
I
days.
have a lot of opinions that are political, but not political.
Yeah. Like they're not on the ballot to be voted for by anybody.
Exactly.
That's like a whole nother thing that's happening. So where do we get this sense of freedom that we're talking about when we create this new normal that we're moving into? This sense of freedom, that's kind of what I'm feeling we're wanting people to express your truth, male or female, that sense of freedom.
And freedom has many different meanings for many different people, cultures.
Yes, it does. If you're imprisoned, it could mean getting out,
Right.
from behind bars. But then if you've been like in a culture where they suppress women, that's like a lack of freedom. And then you discover,
Look how many people come from those cultures that are living in our culture, and both the men and the women from, like, part of Arabia, they come here, and they find it very difficult to adapt. And we don't help them adapt. That creates a big hoopla.
it,
Is that a good word?
yeah, it's a
Okay.
good word. And so then people go hang out in that hoopla.
Yes.
So you get the different areas in the community. And there's nothing wrong with hanging out with like-minded, like-looking people. There's nothing wrong with that. Dogs hang out with dogs.
Sure.
Birds hang out with birds. But then they have human owners sometimes.
But that's what I like about the 24th at the Mexican restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
It's multicultural.
It is. In fact, the cocina means a certain style of Mexican cooking. And
Yeah.
I invited a friend, Dalton, and he said, oh, Justin and I just love, Mexican food. And that place you talked about, Renata? Oh, they have that nice little twist in their food that only comes from someone that knows how to cook that way. I thought, well, sweet. So we'll see you here on the 24th. He's like, yeah, we'll probably be there. But, I'm like, I learn something all the time by just listening to people.
Sure. And so the important thing is, when we say we're open to all of the other cultures, but when we have a party at our house, do we invite Asian people? Do we invite black people? Often no. And often you invite from the black community or the Mexican community, and they're afraid to come to our home.
Interesting. Now I can I would totally agree with what you just said, and then fast forward to multi-generational family gatherings like we have in our family, and it is definitely multicultural.
Oh, yes.
But I get that that's probably the love that everybody feels. Everybody shows up at those events, you know, at the Monroe family, you know, and it's really nice. But sad to admit, I'm not seeing a lot of that mixing up of people from different cultures and races. The young people get it.
Oh, isn't that true?
The young people get. Let's interrupt and bring a young person in here, Max. Young person, Max. He's doing his job behind the camera for us. So we're having a discussion on mixing it up with races and that. Do you have friends from different cultures and races that you hang out with?
Yeah, definitely. I don't have any. I don't have any friends that are of my own race. I'll say that.
Okay. Well, you got your family.
Yeah. Besides my family.
But then so you know you. So you're bringing in.
That's very unusual and very good.
It's
when I was
cool.
growing up, it wouldn't happen. I'm glad to hear that, Max.
Isn't that so? When you now here, I'm in the middle a little bit, and I was a busing student.
Mm-hmm.
So all of my friends were white.
And I grew
Mostly.
up where everyone in the community had to walk to school, or, in my case, someone would drive me to school. And that created a lot of barriers. Because my driver was not allowed to pick up any students walking on the street. And even when I'd say, but that one goes to my school, pick her up or pick him up, the driver said, your mother will kill me.
So it's interesting how we can toe the line with a lot of things that don't feel quite right in our life. And then everybody reinforces that, either silently or openly. Don't ever do that again. Or like the driver, your mom would kill me. Well, you know what? If you don't tell mom, she won't know, driver. So
You're right.
You know.
I'm not about to tell her.
yeah. So I'm just saying, it's interesting. So that was like you gave me two male examples, male. I'm gonna tap in with Max again. So Max, in terms of truth speaking, do you feel like you speak your truth in your family? Like, do you tell your mom and dad what's up with you, regardless of what you were taught? I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
I would say no, actually.
Oh,
I would
cool.
say no.
Deep. Honesty, I
like
love your
that you're
honesty.
so honest.
High five. I love that about you, Max, because I think a lot of young people tread on water a little bit in their
Yes.
family situation because, that's your roof. That's the clothes, unless you have a job. That's your car, And so my mom would do that to me a little bit like, well, when you make your own money and stuff, you can speak up. Like, okay, I got that message clearly. You know what I'm saying?
No,
I
when
got
I
it
was
clearly.
growing up in Boston, I had a cousin that was gay. And he was never invited, even as a high school student, he was never invited to any of our family events.
Because he was gay.
Yep,
And no one wanted to talk about it. Like the elephant
that's not
in the
true
room.
anymore,
No, it's not true anymore.
and that's good.
And that's a great thing. I recall one of my friends from Crystal Spirit, she emancipated herself when she was 14, 15.
Mm-hmm.
Her parents were so crazy, she said, like, I just knew that I couldn't, have any kind of quality life. And she was like, 14, 15 making that decision. So she moved in with some good friends. And she said, one day we're sitting having dinner and everybody's talking like, how was your day? And she was like, that was like the most amazing wake-up call for me because like no one ever asked me. No one was present enough to ask me how my day was, let alone to gather the dinner and cook it at one time and sit at the table. And I'm like, really? She's like, yeah. So I can't wait to have children, she was saying, and she has a little daughter now, to show a different way. And maybe a lot of us do that. We come in to bring in a different way. And maybe in your family and your lineage, Max, you're the one that gets to come in and show a different way. By
And
blending in.
Max's kids are going to be
Oh, I bet you.
not repressed.
Or your adopted kids or your nieces, nephews, whatever, the siblings that you are exposed to, that feel your love and your realness, that come to you, it's going to be a different place. And so all those changes, I feel, William, are happening on the inside.
Inside, absolutely.
George alluded to that a lot. It's like your power is the inside. It's the inside stuff. You know, it's the sensations that you
Yes,
get when
yes.
you the butterflies in your stomach when that's so exciting, I can't wait to do that. Or oh my gosh, I have to do that again. Oh, I just dread that. And and believe yourself when you say I just dread that, because all parts of you are dreading that,
It's an adventure.
Yes, if you allow it, huh?
And part of the new evolution is striving to comprehend the fact that everything that comes into our lives came for a reason.
Yes.
And if you waste your time and energy trying to figure out why this happened, then you don't have energy left to figure out how to relate. And sometimes you have to experience it before you can relate to it.
Sometimes why stands for what, how, and then yes.
Yes.
We're just looking for a way to where do you want me to be? We're so used to being told what to do, it runs deep in our educational system.
Deep.
In our religious system, in our medical system. What else we got? We got other systems, but that runs deep in all those systems. Here is the standard. No, wait, here's that word, norm. Here is the norm. You're either above the norm or below the norm. You're never right with it, exceeding it. You're either above or below. That's an interesting thing, isn't it?
And now it's time to get rid of the word
Can we
norm
bury the norm?
and just say, this is what I'm experiencing.
This is my up-leveling. I like that word, up-leveling.
That's fun.
Yeah, it feels kind of fun. You have to kind of stop and say that, up-level. It doesn't just float off your tongue. I'm just up-leveling. What are you doing? I'm just deciding how that really feels for me. Would that be an interesting way, Max, we need you again. Would that be an interesting way to have a conversation with the friend, like, well, you want to go or not? And you're like, let me check in first. I don't know. Would that be odd for you to say something like that? What would you say if someone asked you, well, let's go da 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 da, and you're like, I don't know. How would you do that?
I would say, let me ask my parents.
Okay, that's an honest one. That's a good one.
But it's also, now, Max, ask yourself, do I really want to do that? And if you really feel it's going to be fun or comfortable, then just say sure. If it doesn't feel good, say, no, I'm not going to do that.
Ah, okay. So now I wasn't really indicating, Max, that it was going to be something that you know your parents would not want you to do. Okay? It was just, let's go to the museum. I see there's a new exhibit that could be kind of cool for our project. You want to go? That kind of thing.
But everybody, I believe, has to make a decision
Yes.
not related to
Yeah.
how they were taught, what their culture taught, what their parents teach.
This is very true, regardless of whether you need to get some money from your parents to go there or not. I get you, because your first response, and we're tearing you apart a little bit, but not really. Thank you for contributing, because that honesty is what allows people to change, especially men. Like, well, you know what? I kind of just really want to go, so I'm just going to go tell my parents, I really want to go to this, but I get that maybe you might not want to. Can we talk about it? That's like an up level to me. That's like, okay, well, let's bring it to the plate. I've heard people say that. Let's bring it to the plate and see, what we can mix up here.
Okay, now, many of you, some of you had
Thanks, Max.
upbringings like mine. And if I had said to my family, I want to do A, B, C, What do you think? I was setting myself up for punishment.
See, and that didn't happen in our household. It was just my
Yeah.
mom and I.
So everyone's different. You have to find what works for you. And men, women, don't try to be one or the other. Be a balance of all of it.
Or even acknowledging that you're the balance of all of it. Like,
Yeah, oh, good,
you
good,
don't
good.
always have, a yes or no answer. So
Sure,
allow
sometimes it's
that.
communication.
Yeah, so you just kind of allow that to, mix up on the inside and know that if you have to make a decision by a certain time, you either will and you will be included or you won't and you'll be excluded. So there's always outside parameters as well that have nothing to do with you actually.
I recently said to a client in Osaka, Japan, on the internet, you've been asking that question for a little over a year. Now it's time. Either make a choice or know that you are irresponsible.
Yeah, you don't have ability to respond.
And I said, so you make a choice and you don't like the result, you make a new choice.
That's totally true.
Yeah.
But what if that new choice I make is not as good as the old choice? Really? You,
Who evaluated it? It might be what you need.
I know. I was just kind of adding some stuff to the pot there, like that stew. The stew of human life is such that it's a human life. It's filled with all kinds of experiences, and you can honor those experiences and grow and evolve from them. Even if you don't grow and evolve, you've grown and evolved from them.
Because you
It's
might
a
have grown
choice.
on a soul level, not
Yes.
as a personality level.
Oh, big difference there.
Massive.
Huge difference there.
So,
So that part about the universe having infinite sources. You're part of that universe. So the 7.6 billion people on this planet, we're part of that infinite resource of the universe.
of the universe,
Ever
yes.
thought about that? I mean, well, I guess I'm saying be with that one. We are the universe. Various versions of the universe.
And that's what the Universal Life Alliance is all about, is recognize our culture and our time, which only exists on our planet. It does not
Yes.
exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
It's man-made. Now it's time to be universal in your thinking. And you don't have to give up being a Catholic, a Jew, or anything. Just add to it universal thinking.
You mentioned that word, or be a Jew, and I'm like, I heard a story about a musician that was adopted by a Jewish family. You may know who this is. I didn't know this. And they were just like, they took a little pity on him because he was like, by himself. So they adopted him, and he adopted them, and went to school, lived with them, all that kind of stuff. Grew up to be a musician, and wears like the Star of David and stuff. You know who that is?
No.
Satchmo.
Ah, okay.
I thought, oh my gosh. So it's like, wow, talking about coming in to really integrate.
Integration, perfect.
And integration was not, it didn't stop at let the black people go to the white school, like in the civil rights movement. That, that was like the surface of the integration. Because there's still a lot of cultures that have been integrated that still feel really segregated on the inside.
Oh, yes.
I see it in my own culture, a lot of racism in being super light skinned or being super dark.
Oh, yes.
all that little bigotry going on inside of you. Yeah, I'm just saying, I noticed that. So it is our job individually and collectively, be you more predominantly male or female, to end all of that stuff. All of that, because it's just stuff. To integrate that.
Yes.
And then to spit out love in its highest form. So when we asked Max a question and he said, a couple times we put him on the spot, he spat love out in its highest form. It's called truth. We didn't ask Max to pretend that he was someplace else. That's why we asked him that just on the fly. What would you do? And he was like, probably ask my parents. See, so a lot of us are deferring to our parents. Who are our parents now? The outside system, the outside narrative. Stop deferring so much outside is what we're saying, and just go inside. We all will have parents. We all have parents.
and go inside.
Bring your parents along with you. Like, ooh, I got a new story for you. Come inside here. Come play with me now.
And if they don't want to play, let them not play.
Right, and they can just be your parents over there in isolated mode and not really kind of integrating and loving the stewarding of the young little person that's grown up to be like a bright light. They've got to be like, look at you. Wow, we did a good job.
Because I think parents have the opportunity and the right to teach all of us ethics, honesty, clarity. And then as we get into the puberty stages, our parents have to become the observers. Because
Right.
then we have learned all we're going to learn about ethics. And now you're going to learn through experience.
Exactly.
Yes.
And you can't have experience without having the experience.
And you can't evaluate it's a good one or a not good one. It's an experience that you need, or the universal consciousness wouldn't bring it to you.
And now this is an interesting part. I shared with you I was studying a little ancestral clearing because I think it's kind of cool. So many of us have that doubt mechanism working on us 24/7 on the inside. So when opportunities come to bring more clarity for us because they go against the parental status, wherever that is, right? We don't allow that and we resist it. We can't do that. But it feels too challenging. And so some of the work I'm learning now is like, well, go talk to that part. That part, it's not all of us that feel challenging. There's a part, like you said, your childhood,
Sure.
a small part. Small part. Recognize there's a bunch of different voices going on in your head and heart because they're supposed to be. But then you are the unifier of that. And so to get that clarity, go back to that little part that keeps coming up for you because that part will keep coming up and talk to that part. Talk to that part and say, you're good.
And in addition, I believe in everything you said, but I often, when I find a challenge that I was taught to think it was wrong,
Yeah.
I ask myself, my soul, did I ever appreciate it? And then I want to feel and sense when I appreciated it and when it was acknowledged and respected, and suddenly I'm able to make a clear decision.
And from a healing perspective, we all have that potential. Sometimes you need
Yes.
someone to hold your hand a little bit to show you that
Oh,
process,
yes.
to make your awareness of that. That's what I'm talking about. But how quickly the veil can be lifted. When I say the veil, I'm talking about consciousness.
Yes.
When you start to recognize that you're not here as a byproduct of your parents or a byproduct of your culture. You are here because your soul decided to incarnate and have an experience on this planet. That's why we're all here. That's the purpose.
The legend of the mists of Avalon is the mists were created by people denying their soul and just focusing on intellect.
So we say soul, higher self, the essence of you, all those words.
All those words.
All those words can work. But you're saying not the personality, the
Yes.
I call it the little Banty Rooster part that's walking around. Or South Park. Do you ever watch that show, South Park?
No.
Max, have you seen South Park? I'm the only South Park watcher.
I haven't seen it, but I have heard of
You
it.
oh okay. So the little
I haven't even heard
the
of
little kid Kenny's like, mind my authority. He's a little so a lot of us walk around like that. Pay attention to me. I would do that,
it. We called that Banty Rooster in my era.
Oh, did you call it Banty Rooster? Okay, because I like the Banty Rooster. That's my Chinese astrology. What's yours? Do you know your Chinese astrology?
Dragon.
Oh, that's right. That's where you have your email, the dragon. I see it's so interesting having those little aspects is to talk about things.
Oh, yeah.
It's fun conversation. It's all of you.
And my acknowledging the dragon is part of why I'm so accepted in Asia.
Because you got the dragon.
Yep.
You got the dragon energy. When I first met a woman, Teresa, and we were just having a conversation down at Crystal Spirit, we were talking about, dragons in the sky and that. We talked for about an hour. I just met her, right? And she's like, That was a really nice conversation, Renata, just sitting there talking about the clouds and stuff.
Mhm.
You know, you can see so many different shapes and
Oh,
things
yes.
in the clouds. I
Yeah.
got some good pictures yesterday off my deck. It was amazing of the cloud formations. It was cool. Lots of cool stuff.
And someday I'm going to learn how to take a photograph that you send and send it to Japan.
Because they have that blog that I like to. I can
And-
probably send some stuff to Yoshi.
I've tried to send pictures that you or Maria or some others have sent, and they never get anywhere. They're someplace. I just don't know where.
Well, now we actually have somebody in our midst that can help us out with some of the
Yes.
technology. I mean, last time I was trying to watch the show and I had my iPad on, the sound was stuck, so Max had to come help me. But you know, there's something about, you know, I like the idea of being a little more vulnerable and just like, you know, I don't really know a lot of stuff. I know a few things and just this, you know, like this. So it's okay, you know? But you know, I'm like big on asking for help. And this is an interesting male-female dynamic. There is that guy that wrote the book, Men Are From Mars and Women from Venus, or it might have been the reverse thing, you know? So George and I are driving on the freeway and we're trying to go someplace and I'm like, well, there it is over there. And George's like, okay, I'll take this exit. I'm like, no, that's not it. And we almost got a divorce on that whole thing. Not really, but it was kind of funny because I'm like, well, just stop at the gas station and ask for directions. And George's like, well, no, it's just over here. You know, an hour later, we're trying to get off the freeway and could have just like, you know, I'll do that. I'll raise my hand. I'll go ask for directions. Totally. And a lot of people, you know, it's the guy thing sometimes. I'll figure it out. Okay, well, what's wrong with asking for some help to figure it out? That feels more effortless. So there's that truth thing as well, and that male-female
And
thing.
part of the truth thing is communicate before you're even in a relationship or married and discover each other's different processes and agree that we're going to follow each other, not one or the other is better.
Yeah, and that's got to be
That's hard.
That's got to be hard, and that may be the magic by which George and I operate so gracefully, because we do see the world from different lenses. I mean, we discovered that about ourselves very early on, and decided that was actually a good mix to bring to the middle, and then we work it out because we're a team.
You know, my partner and I, Ruth, she and I were very, very different. But we talked about it before we got together.
One of the key things, talking about the male energy and feeling like you need to have children or it's your job, the woman's job to bear children. I had chosen this lifetime not to have children. And so George said to me he had a vasectomy, and if I wanted kids, we could, you know, talk about that, like, you know, go to have that reversed or something. I'm like, you're good. Nope, had kids in many lifetimes, don't want my own children, I'm way okay. I ended up having a dog for 15 years, and it reminded me of how cool it is to nurture, because dogs are, you know, they need their human moms. So that was great for me. But we had that kind of discussion. I do have friends that, you know, one of their main reasons for getting married is they want children, and they marry somebody that really doesn't want children, and oh, oops, they never talked about that. Or oops, they talked about it and people weren't truthful. Oops.
Something that I've said to clients over the 51 years is you don't have to be married to have a baby.
Isn't that a blessing? Now I believe in
If you don't want a baby, don't have it. If you want a baby,
have it.
hey, you don't have to get married to do it, girl.
No, or guy.
Yes.
There's lots of children that would love a loving home.
Oh, yes.
And I have never checked this out, but it could be that adoption agencies and places have changed some of those blind rules about, you know, male, female, and all of that.
Did you know that we can adopt Asian babies, but Asians don't adopt other Asians?
And there was a great little show depicting the challenge of, it was talking about Koreans a lot, being adopted into American families. And then this one child had a challenge, and so they sent him back to Korea because he had like a heart problem. And then his own people, like, well, do you speak Korean? He's like, well, no. Well, why are you coming back home? You don't speak Korean. You're no good in English. It was like the poor kid was all messed up. He ended up dying alone, which I understand is a big deal in Korea, that a lot of people die alone. Like, wow. So this show on my favorite Netflix brought up some interesting dynamics that are going on our planet in different cultures about what's acceptable and what's not, and how deeply that runs, in the cultures.
Well, what you're saying is very true, that the Asians don't mind if people from other countries adopt their babies from orphanages, but they won't adopt
Their own.
their own race.
And
Some do, of course.
Yeah, of course. We're not talking there's a hard line with everything. But what we're suggesting is that as you observe other cultures and races and the things that you love, you can adopt those. You don't have to be Spanish or Japanese or Korean or Italian or German or any of that, If there's something that you really love about that culture, you can embrace that in many different ways. And if there's some rigidity that, is not, you can just let that go.
Yep.
So you can pick and choose like a smorgasbord, kind of like a stew, but like a smorgasbord. That's what we're suggesting that we all do right now, is pick and choose who you hang around with, the kinds of thoughts and energies that you allow yourself to bring home in your heart. Yeah.
And so I like Renata's thing. She didn't adopt babies. She adopted that wonderful dog that my big dog loved it.
I know.
We'd drive by her store, and my dog would want to stop and play. And so it was our big dog and the little dog.
And they were just like, it's so funny going to the dog park. I'd often say, us humans could learn a lot by sniffing butts.
Oh, isn't that the truth?
I mean, because dogs are like, oh, you're cool. Let's go play. And they go run. Isn't it? They're just so transparent.
There's a dog park in Lakewood where I took a group from Japan. You were with us.
Oh, yeah.
And the people were so shocked that white dogs, black dogs, big dogs, little dogs were all playing together.
In fact, you know what, though? Let's see, 219, today, June 16th, it was 2 years ago that we were actually doing that tour.
Was it that long ago?
I know. It seems like it was just yesterday, but then it was just,
It was yesterday.
Yeah.
In Universal Time.
In Universal Time.
It was yesterday.
And, proof and point, when you can go back in time and recall, a situation or a memory that was so cool, you can just see it in your mind's eye and feel it in your heart. It was so much fun. It's like it was yesterday. Mm-hmm. That's what you're talking about.
Yep.
So anything and everything is up for renewal and reuse and reintegration. You get to choose. And if you want to keep all the bad memories because it helps you stay separate, you can keep all the bad memories. You're good. No one's going to try knocking on your door. There's no bad memory police. There needs to be.
Yep.
Give those up now. You can't keep those any longer. You've had those for your whole lifetime. We're taking them away and we're burying them for you. Vroom, vroom. Wouldn't that be great? This is the memory police. I know. We're the memory police. We understand you've been holding on to that resentment forever. It's time to bury it and make it something else.
And a lot of resentments that we have do trace back to other densities.
Yes, they do. Other lifetimes
Yep.
even. And that's why this ancestral clearing is so cool, because you can just reach back and pull it forward by acknowledging the sensation. Like you said, you talk to that part of you. That's exactly what you do. It's a new tool. It's not a new tool, but it's one that is really effective.
So most of all, gang, enjoy yourself. And men, speak your truth.
Yeah.
If you are afraid to speak your truth to the people in your family, and you're an adult, build your own family
Build your own family.
and speak your truth. Be yourself, love yourself, honor yourself. And if people don't understand, that's their problem, not yours.
That's their problem. But also, when you were saying that, I'm like, and you could write it down, because as long as you
That's
own,
right.
if you own your truth on the inside, at some point, regardless of what the words come out, the energy will supersede your words, and people will hear you
Yes.
and see you. That's called resonance. So you can't fake this. So if you feel you're in conflict somewhere, then start journaling and writing down that stuff and
Yes,
being
yes,
true.
yes.
You with you, no one's listening. Just talk to yourself. Talk to yourself and honor all parts of you.
And when you talk to yourself, talk inside, not outside.
So that mind talking, it's a good thing.
And I'm saying it's wonderful. I have friends that when they're talking to themselves, they're talking out loud.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm always saying, are you talking to me?
Yeah, like people with the earphones where they've got the
Yes.
iPods in for phone thing. Yeah, it still catches me off every now and then in the store. I go to answer someone like, oh, they're talking to their phone, So, happy birthday, George.
Yes, yes, yes.
Many, many more.
And we'll see you all next week. And we'll see you all on the 24th.
Yeah, so we got another show or two for the 24th. My sense of timing is so
That's
whacked.
Yes, because we're embracing on Earth more of universal time.
Yeah, it's different. You can
Different.
You can be in many places at one time. And I think Max is saying it's our time to go. I don't get to tell. But I always like to do hug off. We're going to hug off.
Thank you, thank you.
Auf Wiedersehen.
Arrivederci.
Ooh, look into there.